الحمد لله. جزاكم الله خير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد، يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. So tonight, inshallah ta'ala, as we continue with the proclamations of the most merciful to the people of faith, we have reached approximately a fifth, if not maybe close to a fourth of the book getting done, as there are over 90 proclamations from the Quran as a whole. And alhamdulillah, tonight we take the 23rd. And it is from Surah An-Nisa, the 71st ayah. And the Shaykh rahmatullahi alayhi titles it في وجوب أخذ الحذر من العدو والتصرف بحكمة حال الحرب واشتداد القتال. And what that basically means is the command to be careful of the enemy by utilizing wise actions during the time of war as well as battle. And it is قوله تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا خذوا حذركم فانفروا ثبات أو انفروا جميعا. In the English it reads, O you who have believed, take your precautions and either go forth in companies or go forth all together. So looking at this ayah, before I even begin with the commentary of what the Shaykh gives rahmatullahi alayhi, some folks will use this or will misuse this ayah as though this ayah is calling to something of terrorism or something of criminal activity. On the contrary, this ayah is focusing on the aspect of defense, which for us as Muslims, when we look at the Quran, we realize that it is a source of guidance as a whole. And that Allah Rabbul Alameen even gives us guidance with regards to times of war. And this ayah is one of those ayahs. This verse is one of those verses. Ash-Sharh, the commentary. تعلم أيها المؤمن أنه ما نادى الله تعالى عباده المؤمنين إلا ليبين لهم طريق سعادتهم وكمالهم وعزهم وسيادتهم وقيادتهم لأنهم أولياؤه وهو وليهم. Believers, we should know as we recognize that Allah Rabbul Alameen calls out to His servants and His slaves from the believers, He does so to clarify to them those things that are going to place them on the path of happiness and of self-development towards completion, as well as power and leadership. Leadership as well as responsibility, because they are Allah Azza wa Jal's dear friends, and Allah Azza wa Jal is our dear protecting friend. وأن ما يأتي بعد النداء لا يكون إلا أمرا منجيا ومسعدا أو نهيا مبعدا عن الشقاوة والخسران في الدارين. And whatever is going to be mentioned after that proclamation, calling the believers, O you who believe, it is either a command from Allah Rabbul Alameen that is going to save us from something that is going to be harmful or dangerous, as well as bless us with happiness. Or that it is going to be a prohibition that abstains us from or calls us to abstain from those things that Allah Rabbul Alameen knows will lead to our misery and to our loss and destruction in both this life and the next. أو نذارة تخيف وترهب فتحمل المؤمنين على مواصلة فعل الخيرات واجتناب المنكرات. He says, or it may be that it's a warning that frightens the believers, thereby motivating them, strengthening them, giving them the ability to continue the path of righteousness and to do what is good, as well as to abstain from sins. ولا غرابة ولا عجب في هذا لأن الولي سبحانه لا يريد لأوليائه إلا نجاتهم وسعادتهم. And there's nothing strange at all about this. Because if we truly understand Allahu Rabbul Alameen and that He does care for His slaves and servants, then we'd come to understand that He wants to save them and that He wants to grant them happiness. وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ الْمُتَّقُونَ أَوْلِيَاءُ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى وَاللَّهُ وَلِيُّهُمْ إِذْ قَالَ تَعَالَى اللَّهُ وَلِيُّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يُخْرِجُهُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. And the believers who are mindful of Allahu Rabbul Alameen, those are Allah's dear friends. And Allahu Rabbul Alameen is their protecting friend. As He tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah, the 257th ayah, Allah is the protecting friend of the believers. He takes them out of darkness and brings them to light, or brings them to the light. يُخْرِجُهُم مِّن ظُلُمَاتِ الشِّرْكِ وَالْكُفْرِ وَالنِّفَاقِ وكبائر الذنوب وفواحش القول والعمل لتبقى أنفسهم زكية أو زكية طاهرة يرضاها تعالى ويعطيها مناها. He takes them out of darkness, the darkness of what's associated with polytheism, associating anything with Allah Rabbul Alameen in beliefs as well as in worship, or blasphemy in its different forms, as well as hypocrisy, as well as taking them out of the darkness of major sins and what there is of immorality in both forms of speech and action, so that they can remain upon those acts and deeds that help them to purify themselves, so that they can remain in a state that is pleasing to Allah Rabbul Alameen, and so that He can grant them their greatest ambitions. وقد أخبر بذلك في قوله تعالى ألا إن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. Allah Rabbul Alameen tells us this in the ayah that is in Yunus, the 62nd, saying, behold, Allah's dear friends, they have no fear, nor will they have any sadness. وَبَيَّنَهُمْ بِقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. And He explains who these dear friends of His are, saying, those who believe and guarded themselves, guarded their faith, guarded their relationship with Allah Rabbul Alameen, not allowing anything to lessen or to jeopardize that. وَبَيَّنَ تَحْقِيقَ مُنَاهُمْ لَهُمْ فَقَالَ لَهُمُ الْبُشْرَى فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ لَا تَبْدِيلَ لِكَلِمَاتِ اللَّهِ. And he further concludes in the same chapter, verse after verse, in the 64th verse, what his greatest hopes for us are, what his rewards for us are, and that is that he has for those believers that are his dear friends the glad tidings in this life as well as in the next, and that nothing is going to change what Allah decrees, what He states. أي الحاملة للبشارات ذلك هو الفوز العظيم. That is what Allah Azza wa Jalla is giving of these glad tidings, and that is truly the tremendous success and reward. والآن هل تدري لما نادى الله تعالى عباده المؤمنين في هذا النداء الثالث والعشرين من نداءاته لهم في كتابه العزيز الحكيم? He's asking us, do we have any idea as to why Allah Rabbul Alameen is calling, announcing out to the believers in this 23rd verse? What is it within this beautiful, noble book of His that He's calling our attention to? إِذْ نَادَاهُمْ لِيَأْمُرَهُمْ بِأَخْذِ الْحِذْرِ مِنْ عَدُوِّهِمْ وَعَدُوُّ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ هُوَ كُلُّ كَافِرٍ مِنَ الْإِنسِ وَالْجِنِّ وَعَدُوُّهُمْ هو من يريد هلاكهم وخسرانهم وذلهم وضعفهم وحقارتهم ولا يكون هذا العدو إلا كافرا ظالما والحذر يكون بتوقي المكروه بالأسباب المشروعة الممكنة. Well, the reason why Allah Rabbul Alameen in this ayah is calling out to the believers, it's to command them to beware of their enemy. To beware of their enemy. And the enemy of the believer is that person that has placed themselves against them as the disbeliever. And that is from both human beings as well as jinn. How do you know who the enemy is? By their traits. The enemy is the person who wants to destroy you, who wants to hurt you so that you could lose, so that you can be degraded, so that you could be humiliated, so that you could be weak, so that you could be dependent, so that you can be whatever they want you to be. They sure don't want you to be dignified, to be respectable, to have what they themselves have. And we're told that this enemy, that this is truly the person that has rejected faith and has disbelieved in Allah Rabbul Alameen is engaged in oppression and injustice. And so we must be cautious and beware of them. How do you do that? It's by guarding ourselves from all things that we dislike, of what can bring us pain, harm, suffering, and doing so through what is permissible, Islamically permissible. فمن الأسباب المشروعة الممكنة لتوقي عدو الشياطين الاستعاذة بالله السميع العليم إذ قال الله تعالى وإما ينزغنك من الشيطان نزغ فاستعذ بالله إنه هو السميع العليم. And so among the things that are permissible and that are Islamically given to us to protect ourselves, to guard ourselves, the first category that we're paying attention to are the jinn, the demons. The demons, not the human beings, but the demons. And the way that we do so is by following the guidance that Allah Rabbul Alameen has given in the Quran, as we have in the 36th ayah of Surah Fussilat. Allah the Mighty, the Majestic, He says, and when the devil is going to cause discord between you and somebody else, seek protection with Allah. Certainly He, Allah, He is the all-hearing, the all-knowing. And look at how complete this is. Allah Rabbul Alameen is not only telling us that the enemy is, for example, the human being. To be very honest with you, it's correct to begin with the demons because they're the ones that are causing most of the problem between us as human beings. Because we don't see them, because we don't necessarily have the senses to perceive them, they're working in stealth mode. They're inciting us to all sorts of bad, to think bad thoughts, to make bad assumptions, and in doing so to feel negativity within our hearts towards the other person, such that there can then be the exploitation of those negative feelings and emotions to say and do that which Allah Rabbul Alameen dislikes and doesn't want us to do. You can close those fans if He's like, I don't know why they have them on, it's not that hot, subhanAllah. So please, Jazakumullah khairan. He says, أولا, that's the first way, is by asking Allah's protection from shaitan. وثانيا عدم الاستجابة لما يزينه للعبد وتركه والإعراض عنه. So the second thing we do to protect ourselves from the demons is by not answering them to whatever it is that they're beautifying and tempting us into doing. Because the temptations are going to be there to resist them and to turn away from them and to reject them. And they're going to come to us in so many different ways and forms. وَثَالِثًا لُزُومُ الطَّهَارَةِ مَا كَانَ أَمْكَنَ ذَلِكَ. To stay in a state of tahara as best as we can, in a state of wudu. Now, alhamdulillah, if you're one of those people that, mashallah, you're blessed that you can hold your wudu for a long time, do so. And if you're from some of those other folks that you got to break your wudu like every other minute, Allahul Musta'an. We can pay attention to these other ones. He says, وَرَابِعًا قِرَاءَةُ الْقُرْآنِ فِي الْمَنْزِلِ وَصَلَاةِ النَّافِلَةِ فِيهِ. The fourth thing is by reading the Quran, especially in your house, and praying your voluntary prayers in the house. And this is something that it can never be overstated. Many of us, all of our worship takes place in the masjid. We have made the masjid in our religion as though it is the religion of Christianity and Judaism, where worship can only take place in the temple, in the church. That is not the case for us as Muslims. Yes, we have the prayers that are supposed to take place in congregation in the masjid, but the best prayers outside of the fard prayer in jama'ah and congregation is the sunnah, the nafil that you pray at home. And the Prophet ﷺ stressed in so many different forms of his sunnah, أفضل صلاة المرء في البيت إلا المكتوبة, that the best prayer you can make as a person is in your home, except for the prescribed prayers of the 5 daily prayers. And he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لا تجعلوا بيوتكم مقابر. Said, do not turn your houses into cemeteries. How do you do that? It's by not making salah in them, not reading Quran in there, not worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal through the different forms of dhikr and so on. We need to make sure that as best as we can in our houses, we are worshipping Allah Rabbul Alameen. And not only that, but even the fard salah. Sometimes you can't make it, right? It happens. When you are home as a family, we should pray in jama'ah. Not that each person prays on their own. We should pray as a congregation, worshipping together in the home. The fifth thing, خامسا تطهير المنزل من الصور خاصة ما يعرض في الآلات كالفيديو والتلفاز من صور العواهر والكفار وأصوات المزامير المختلفة. The fifth thing that he gives is an interesting one. So he says, by purifying your house from images, especially from those things that you have of TV and other things of that sort. So this Shaykh rahmatullahi alayhi and many others, they view the TV as being a horrible evil tool, a device that has more bad than it does good, especially when there is inappropriate types of images and scenes, women exposing themselves and other types of things that are inappropriate. That's what he's talking about. He says as well as music. وَبِهَذَا يُتَّقَى الشَّيْطَانُ وَإِخْوَانُهُ. He goes, and this is how a person can guard themselves from the devil, of shaitan, Satan, and his brethren of the demons. ومن الأسباب الممكنة لتوقي شر العدو من الإنس. He then moves on to the second category. From the prescribed, permissible means for us to guard ourselves from the human enemy is عدم حسن الظن به أي بالعدو الكافر دائما وأبدا. The first thing he's saying is by not having good thoughts about your enemy. Your enemy, that in this case, he's mentioning him as being the disbeliever, the person who has a different faith that hates you because of your faith. And I'm going to pause here for a second. Because what we have seen just a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, it feels like it was yesterday, in New Zealand, that's a real example of what this ayah is talking about. We have to take threats seriously. We have to wake up and start having these false thoughts of, oh no, everything is okay, nothing is going to happen. We have nothing to worry about. We're living in a civilized time and people are civilized. We're living in first world nations and stuff. SubhanAllah. We are seeing what these folks who hate us because we're colored, because our religion, because we have too many children according to them, because of whatever it may be. They hate us. And they hate other people. So this ayah is not just for the Muslims, this ayah is for humanity as a whole. I would look at this verse and say that colored people in their churches, in their temples, and whatever they may be, that they should also protect themselves against the threat of what there is of white supremacy or otherwise. Pay attention, I'm saying to protect ourselves. I'm not saying for us to go out there and attack people. I'm saying for us to protect ourselves within our houses of worship, within our own places, while we're minding our own business as those people in New Zealand were. They were in there minding their own business, worshipping Allah Rabbul Alameen, waiting for the main prayer to begin. That maniac, that monster, that criminal went in there and killed 50 people. Allah accept them as martyrs, Allahumma ameen. And injured another 50. Allah healed them and blessed them to completely recover. Ameen. And look at how beautifully the country of New Zealand responded. And look at how horribly our beautiful country of America responded. New Zealand immediately. And it's shameful because that criminal came from Australia. He ruined the beautiful history and reputation of that country. And I'm not saying history in the sense of all that happened with the Aborigines and natives. I'm not going that far back. But here, so over there they banned assault rifles and machine weaponry and so on and so forth. They're buying back these weapons from the citizens. They're doing so many things. And here in America, just today or yesterday, I forgot when it was, the bill to ban those bump stock thingies for whatever they are of weapons, making them into basically automatic or semi-automatics. The law refused to ban them. I think we like killing ourselves here in America. Let me change that. Some Americans like killing others. Because even though we're Americans, we don't like killing others. That is not who we are, that is not what we are, and we pray that that never becomes anything of us. Allahumma ameen. The second point. إعداد العدة الحربية بحسب القدرة على ذلك لقوله تعالى وأعدوا لهم ما استطعتم من قوة. To prepare ourselves with whatever we have the ability with of equipment, of weaponry. As Allah Azza wa Jal tells us, and prepare yourselves with what's within your ability of strength. Listen, our masajid, we need to pay attention to have security, to have deterrent systems in place, to have cameras for surveillance, to have armed guards, and whatever else it requires for us to make sure that we're able to protect ourselves while we're inside our houses of worship. The third, إسناد أمر القيادات الحربية إلى ذوي الكفاءات من القدرة البدنية والعلمية والحربية والإيمانية الروحية. And this third part is important. Making sure that when we're talking about these aspects of defense, of protection, of security, that we refer these matters to the specialists in these fields. And this is where expertise is an Islamic teaching. Allah Azza wa Jal teaches us, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the experts, the specialists, the people who have knowledge and know when you don't know. And so this is where for us, whether I'm imam or board member or whoever, that I'm calling in, bringing in the security specialists, I'm bringing in the police department, I'm bringing in whoever it is, that's what their specialization is. And I'm following their lead, and we are working with them This is not a time for us to, have an ego. To think, no, I'm the imam, I have to be in charge. Or I'm a board member, I have to be in control. We're talking about people's lives here. This is not a joke, it's not a light matter. The right people have to be involved, and it has to be a collaborative approach. The fourth, وجود خبرة عسكرية كاملة وقيادة رشيدة مؤمنة حكيمة عليمة. Now the Shaykh, Allah bless him and grant him mercy because he has passed away, he's talking at the level of country, of government too. So he's saying that there needs to be military and army. Well, for us, we don't have a military and an army, and inshallah, we never need it. But in the sense of countries, that they need to have whatever it requires of them to protect their sovereignty, to protect their people, to maintain a sense of peace and stability, in the way that every country deserves peace and stability, every people deserves peace and stability. And sometimes, unfortunately, the only way that that happens is when the other can be deterred. The fifth point, وجوب أخذ الأهبة والاستعداد التام في أيام السلم وأيام الحرب على حد سواء لآية الأنفال قوله تعالى وأعدوا لهم ما استطعتم من قوة ومن رباط الخيل ترهبون به عدو الله وعدوكم وآخرين من دونهم لا تعلمونهم الله يعلمهم وما تنفقوا من شيء في سبيل الله يوفى إليكم وأنتم لا تظلمون. The ayah means, and prepare for them. I'm sorry, my computer's and prepare against them whatever you are able to of power and of steeds of war by which you may frighten the enemy of Allah and your enemy and others besides them whom you do not know but whom Allah knows. And whatever you spend in the cause of Allah will be fully repaid to you. And this is another one of those ayahs that people misuse or that they abuse, claiming that it's referring to terrorism or supporting terrorism or otherwise. This is another one of those ayahs that shows the completeness of the Quran and of Islam, because it is focusing on defense. It is focusing on what every single country in the world today acknowledges as a necessity, and that is to protect itself, to protect its sovereignty, to protect its people, to protect its future. And Islam, 1400 years ago, did this through the teachings of the Quran. And so, the sixth is وحدة الكلمة ووحدة الصف إذ الفرقة محرمة بقوله تعالى ولا تنازعوا فتفشلوا وتذهب ريحكم. That we need to be united. As believers, we need to be united, we need to be on the same page, and that we are not allowed to be disunited, to be divided. Rather, it is even prohibited for us to be in conflict. As Allah Rabbul Alameen in Surah Al-Anfal, the 46th ayah says, and do not differ and argue and dispute between yourselves such that you then fail and your power leaves you. Seventh, طاعة الله وطاعة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم بصورة عامة وذلك بفعل الأوامر واجتناب المناهي في الحرب والسلم معا إذ الذنوب موجبة للعقوبة من الله تعالى وقد تكون هزيمة بالعدو والعياذ بالله. That in general we want to make sure that we are maintaining our devotion to Allah Rabbul Alameen, our obedience to Him Subhanahu, as well as to the guidance of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And that is by upholding what we have of teachings of commandments and abstaining from what we have of teachings that are prohibitions. And this is during times of war and in peace. Because part of what he's calling our attention to is that if we become sinful and we become transgressors against Allah Rabbul Alameen, He can punish us if He chooses, and that may lead to us being conquered by the enemy. And Allah save us from that. Allahumma ameen. The 8th point, and it is the last, في حال الهجوم يجب القيام بما يلي الثبات وعدم التقهقر وثانيا ذكر الله تعالى بالقلب واللسان. In the time and in the case of when there's going to be an attack, when there's going to be a full-out attack, there's 2 things that we have to pay attention to. The first is to make sure that we maintain our ground and that we do not run away. Out of fear, we are not allowed to run away. Especially if we could understand, as in the case of the attack that happened in the masjid, perhaps those 50 people could have been only 10 people. Perhaps it could have been 5 people. When you see, if you recall the video or if you've seen the video, that this guy has the live streaming on his helmet or whatever he's wearing, and he's walking out of his car, how many cars were driving by? Several people are looking at him as he is walking in towards the masjid holding that weapon. Had perhaps the first and the second person, the third person together attacked this person, perhaps he would have gotten frightened and ran away and nothing would have happened. Perhaps he would have killed one, perhaps he would have killed 2, but all the other people inside, that maybe they could have called whatever they have of 911 in New Zealand, that perhaps they could have had others in their cars attack him as they're in the parking lot. Not to run away. To run away is a very serious major sin. It is from one of the most destructive sins that a person could do is to flee out of fear during that time. The second is remembering Allah Rabbul Alameen, making sure that your heart stays firmly attached. Look, we have to admit that fear is most likely going to happen. But if and when we can keep that heart of ours attached to Allah Rabbul Alameen, and we're remembering Him and we're asking Him to grant us that courage and to grant us that strength, He'll do it. He'll do it. وهذا لقوله تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا لقيتم فئة فاثبتوا واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون وأطيعوا الله ورسوله ولا تنازعوا فتفشلوا وتذهب ريحكم واصبروا إن الله مع الصابرين. And these teachings are found within the 2 ayahs of the 45th and 46th of Surah Al-Anfal, where Allah Azza wa Jalla says, O you who believe, this ayah will come up later on down the road, inshaAllah. O you who believe, when you meet the enemy, stay firm. And remember Allah so that you will prevail. And obey Allah Azza wa Jalla and His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And do not differ, do not contradict, do not dispute, do not fight between yourselves, such that you then fail and that your strength leaves you. Be patient. Certainly Allah is with the patient. And we conclude, وَلِتُرَاجِعْ مَعَانِ هَذِهِ الْآيَةِ الْكَرِيمَةِ فِي النِّدَاءِ الخامس والأربعين من سورة الأنفال فإن بيانها هناك واف مفيد وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا Muhammad. And that ayah is going to come in the 45th proclamation, inshallah. So we still have about another 20 or so to go till we get there. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا Muhammad. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. We're going to have the adhan called inshallah ta'ala in a minute, and then we'll take any questions if there are any, inshallah Azza wa Jalla. How much time do we have?